How they hangin' dino dudes? It's me, the Media Raptor, and welcome back to the Media Raptor Reviews, and Marvel May 4 Infilmity Gauntlet. I'm sorry about the weird schedule of uploads that have been happening. I don't really have an explanation other than, well, I have work, got social things going on, and sometimes I just am too tired to film or edit, so I'm sorry. But hey, let's not focus on that, let's talk about today's movie. Normally I'd try and build up like, oh, what's today's movie gonna be? But you know what, either look down or look up and you'll know what it is. But this is one of the two Marvel Cinematic Universe movies I still haven't reviewed. So yeah, I think you can, if you know my channel, if you've been following me for the past 4 Marvel Mays, you'll kind of know what the next episode will be, or episode after the next, what one of the upcoming episodes will be. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, or you're not paying attention, I'm reviewing the 2016 Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, Doctor Strange. So, full disclosure, I think many people, if we're being honest, knew nothing about Doctor Strange. I had read Iron Man comics, I had read Hulk comics, I had read a lot of comics before I started getting into comics. I had experience with it. But Doctor Strange? I had no idea who this guy was. In fact, I think a good chunk of even Marvel fans from the cinematic universe still weren't 100% sure who Doctor Strange was when the movie came out. And also, I believe that this is one of the few Marvel movies, aside from the first few, like Iron Man 2, Captain America. I didn't see the first few, but this is one of the few mainstream Marvel movies I actually didn't see in theaters. I had a chance to, but I passed on it because I had heard that it was just meh. Now, what do I think about it? I'll get to that in a minute, but I kind of wish I had seen it in theaters. So, one thing which I kind of feel like I need to kind of get out of the way right now, and I know this has been a comparison made before, but I feel like giving my opinion on it, is that Doctor Strange is a magical Iron Man. And not in the sense of his powers that he can fly around and shoot lasers. He can. But here's the thing. The story of Doctor Strange... I'm just lifting up something so I can rest my arm on it. The story of Doctor Strange is very much the story of Iron Man. How he's this rich, self-centered guy who... He's not evil, but he certainly is not the nicest guy around. He's really skilled at what he does, and then he has this moment where he kind of has an oh crap moment, or something happens that makes him realize he needs to be better, and then he decides, I'm going to be better. But where with Iron Man, he was kidnapped, and he was forced to make weapons, and he was seeing what his weapons were doing to hurt innocent people. For Doctor Strange, he loses his hands, sort of. He loses his ability, his hands, the nerves get damaged, and since he's a surgeon, you kinda need those. I mean, I played enough Surgeon Simulator to know that my hands are not good for surgery. I can't even keep heavy alive, let alone a normal person. Then again, I was playing that game in VR, so maybe that was as much the VR's fault because it was confusing and didn't give me instructions. But anyhow, looking past that, just because it is quite similar in the sense of how that idea is similar of someone having to learn humility, I guess, to become a superhero. Does that mean the movie's bad? No, actually, it's quite a good movie. And they also do quite a lot different from Iron Man. Because in this one, he has a mentor, he has people that helps him, he makes friends along the way, where with Iron Man, it was very much a one man in the suit sort of thing until War Machine in the sequels. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, in this one, we have the Ancient One, we have Wong, we have a bunch of characters who kind of help him, guide him, or are just sort of there that he can interact with, giving him a very distinct and different sort of origin story, in a way, from Iron Man. And the story itself, well, here's the thing about Doctor Strange. The movie is about just under 2 hours, 1 hour and 55 minutes. So, you gotta do a lot to keep the movie interesting, especially considering the fact that the main villain does not show up until the last about 10 minutes. So, what do? They build human relationships, they ask moral questions, they show him change, they show his suffering, they do a lot right. He's a very human character, you feel for him, but at the same time you don't always like what he does. They make it so you want to see him succeed, and they do a lot of really cool stuff with magic. A lot of this stuff seems like stuff you'd see in Dungeons and Dragons. You know, reality and time manipulation, those would be like level 8 or 9 spells. Excuse me, but whatever. So this movie, one thing that this movie does great is its sense of wonder and of, we have no limits, let's go nuts. Well, it does have limits, but like, with the magic and stuff like that, they do a whole lot of awesome stuff. And this does kind of have to do with special effects, but like when they warp reality or they change the world around it, it looks so cool. And I'll talk more about that in greater detail. But certainly from a creative standpoint, it's a unique, distinct looking movie. This is not something we've seen before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, although his humbling kind of is something we have seen before. And like most Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, the villain kind of leaves a lot to be desired. Don't get me wrong, Dormammu and the other guys are really cool. They look cool. He has an interesting motivation, cool powers, and it's just an interesting idea of this guy who this cult essentially that believes the kind of cliched, the only way to save the world is to destroy it. It's kind of cliched in that sense, but at least it's an interesting character. It's a real shame that, like I said, we only get about 10 minutes of him. But I will say this. Doctor Strange has, hands down, across the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and possibly across all superhero movies, the coolest defeat of a villain. I am not going to spoil how, because this movie is only 2 years old, so I could see people not having seen it, especially if they're new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it's creative and unique, and I wish more superhero movies would try things like that. I wish more movies in general would have different creative and unique ways of beating your villain. Also, I've mentioned this a couple times now, but I feel like mentioning it again. This was written by 4 dudes. One of them is C. Robert Cargill. If that name sounds familiar to any of you guys watching this, or like the 10 of you that will probably end up watching this, it should, because if you're a YouTube sort of obscure fan like me, like you like the more obscure, lesser known critics, people like Linkara and Phalis, despite the fact that they are getting a good amount of like traction nowadays, like just if you like the more lesser known or more unique critics, you might know a group known as Spill, or might have known a group known as Spill. It was these 4 guys and 1 robot who did a podcast where they talked about movies. One of the guys on the show frequently was named Carlisle. Due to some legal reason, they just didn't use their real names. But yeah, Carlisle wrote this movie. He also wrote Sinister 1 and 2. That's actually why he left the show for a time and came back when they reviewed Sinister. And it was pretty entertaining, to be honest. But yeah, I loved that show. And he's still doing a podcast, which is great. But I really hope this guy does get more work in the future, because if he can write stuff like this, he's a very good writer. He's good at writing characters. He's good at writing unique situations. I'd like to see him do more. I'd also like to see Spill get back together at some point with Cyrus and all the others, but take what you can get, I guess. Anyhow, I think another thing which really does help this movie is that the acting is phenomenal. Of course, we have Benedict Cumberbatch. The dude is a fantastic actor across everything I've seen him in. And everything, really, I don't know any of the other actors. I'm just checking real quick to see if I know them from anything. Really, the only one I know was, the other one I knew was Tilda Swinton, which, yeah, she's the only one I know. Tilda Swinton and Benedict Cumberbatch. Sorry, I was trying to think if I should comment on something, but I don't want to. I don't want to start something. But that being said, there are some actually quite well-known actors in this. For example, okay, he's probably not the best one to choose. I'm going to butcher this name. Mads Mikkelsen. He played Hannibal in the Hannibal movie. He was also Galen Erso in Rogue One. These actors are all talented, and they all bring a good amount of character to the role, especially the guy who plays Dormammu. Now, here's the thing I think most of you will love about this movie. The special effects. The costumes look amazing. The makeup is phenomenal, but the CG is awesome. It all looks really solid. And I was looking for, like, bad CG in places, because even, like, Black Panther had some bad CG whenever you watch it again. Not Doctor Strange, though. But what amazes me about the movie is the continuity. You see, they'll have scenes where essentially the world will be normal, then it'll start folding backwards and mirror into itself. And they go through and they make sure every single line, every single crack in the brick, everything is there perfectly. The amount of dedication they must have taken. And then when they're fighting, when they're using magic to fight or create weapons, it looks cool. Doctor Strange, it looks weaker compared to the others. The continuity like that is stuff I find fascinating and love when they go the extra mile for that in a movie. The costumes all look great. Doctor Strange, he looks dead on to what he looks like in the comics. And now the comics look kind of more like what he does in the movie. So, hey, it all works out in the end if you ask me. But, yeah. Camera work is great. Unlike a lot of action movies, they actually hold on fight scenes more than most movies will. So, good on that, because I kind of think more movies should do that instead of just rapid jump cuts. So at the end of it, can I recommend Doctor Strange? Definitely. Is it a perfect movie? No. Does it kind of go on a little too long in some scenes with some of the writing? Yes. But is it still a solid 3.5 Raptor claws out of 4? Definitely. I really enjoyed Doctor Strange, and I watched it for the first time last year and watched it again now, and now I kind of want to go get a copy of it on Blu-ray, because it's a fun, entertaining movie. It's a great addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They explain where they got the Time Stone. It's kind of quite uniquely woven into it. And, yeah, I look forward to seeing him in other movies, hopefully, unless, Infinity War and the ending of that is anything to go by. Yeah. But looking past that, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe, because we're on our way to episode 200, which blows my mind. I've already filmed it, I'm already editing it. It's going to be great, I hope. And yeah, until next time, this is the Media Raptor saying keep cool, and I'll see all you dino dudes around. Later. Speaking of magic, I'm going to go grab some Mountain Dew and go check out those Dungeons & Dragons books I got.